Hey guys, welcome back to Figuring It Out with Grace and Kaylee. We have reached episode 16, and today we're going to be talking all about mushrooms. Ooh. But before we get into the episode, Kaylee, I would love to know what your rose was from this last week.
Yes. Okay. This is my favorite thing to bring to figuring it out. Okay. So, my rose this week, I would say, is I got to get a lot of work done because my amazing grandmother took the babes.
My God, that's so
So, that
sweet.
was definitely my rose. What was yours?
I my mic, sorry, just dropped. I tried a new restaurant and it was a new Italian restaurant, and I had the freshest
Mm.
pasta that my mouth has ever put its lips on, and it was so delicious. It was a good date night for me and the man.
You
So
would think you were Italian with all the pasta that goes on.
1,000,000%. And Kaylee kind of brought it to my attention more recently that I am a self-proclaimed pasta journalist, but like I don't actually talk about pasta. So
Mhm.
I just want to let you guys know I will be bringing that to the table from here on out. You will only be seeing pasta from me.
She says she's a pasta journalist, and I told her to stop saying that. But now she is a pasta journalist, so I will take that back.
As my best friend, only you know that if you tell me I am not something or not to do something, that is the inspiration I need to fucking do it.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're figuring it. We're figuring it out with Grace.
We're figuring
Okay.
it out with me today, and we're talking about mushrooms. Okay. And I chose this topic because I've had a lot of conversations with friends who have been interested in dabbling in psychedelics, but there's a lot of like curiosity as to like what that experience is like and fear around it. So we're gonna fucking talk about it. We're gonna figure it
Yeah.
the fuck out together. So I wanted to start by just giving like a little intro and full disclaimer, I am not a professional and I'm also not an avid user. So take this with a grain of salt. This is my perspective and my experience. But I think we have to start with how cool fucking mushrooms are. Do you eat
Mhm.
mushrooms?
Yeah, I was gonna say the only thing that I have to do with mushrooms is, well, my best friend's obsessed with them. She made me watch this Netflix series, so that was cool. And then, yeah, I just eat them, but I've never done the psychedelic thing. I'm terrified. No, 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 not my. I feel like I'm too much of a control freak, anyways. That's for another podcast. But yeah, I add them to my meals for sure.
We're definitely going to talk about that. Starting with the non psychedelic, I am obsessed with mushrooms. There's a farm here in Austin called Smallhold Farms, and they sell your own grow kits. They sell all different varieties like trumpet mushrooms, oyster mushroom, lion's mane, chestnut. Like I could go on and on and on about the amazing kinds of mushrooms. And I think it's cool. The documentary that Kaylee was referring to is Fantastic Fun Guy, and you should 10 out of 10 watch it. It is so interesting how what an important and pivotal role mushrooms play in our ecosystem. For
Mhm.
example, if you're walking around, like I am fortunate enough to live where there's like woods behind me. And if you walk around and flip over a decaying log, what are you going to find? Mushrooms, because they are the fertilizer of fucking life. Okay. Without the decomposition that mushrooms provide, we would not have new growth. It's just they're everything. They literally
Mhm.
make the world go fucking round. I love mushrooms.
You know the mushrooms that like pop up in your yard sometimes?
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
It literally is, they're part of the ecosystem and bacteria, like
It's
growth.
just,
It's
yeah,
literally decomposition and
wondered that.
feeding off of bacteria and growth to create new life, which is really, really cool because they stimulate a lot of new growth in life. And so they're really, really important for our ecosystem. Like they're incredibly important for the function. And if you go watch the documentary, I mean, scientists could go on and on about their connection and, you know, how they operate and interact with other things, organisms. I won't pretend to be a scientist. I just know it's really cool and it'll go blow your fucking mind. So, if you have any interest at all in regular mushrooms,
Shit.
I would start there. But I think for me, it was really more so like I had heard of a lot of really cool experiences of people on psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin. So I wanted to learn more about it and I wondered if I can try it. I'm like a try everything once kind of gal. You feel like you're the
You
same way
cry,
or
cry.
no?
Do what?
You feel like you're the same way or no?
I think, well, yes, but not in that. I don't know, guys. I can't get behind, not that I can't get behind it because I'm actually learning. Y'all know I'm a holistic health coach and I'm in a class right now about the psychedelics. So I'm learning about this, which is super cool, but I haven't finished it. So I'm not bringing anything to the table today. Besides that, I know that shiitake mushrooms are really good for you to eat.
Oh my God,
Anyway,
they're delicious.
side note. So, anywho, there's um, but when it comes to like psychedelics and stuff, it's yeah, it makes me nervous because I'm a control freak.
Totally. And we'll definitely get into that. But I think for me, what was really interesting was I had seen like the stereotypical response for people that had like tried recreational drugs. And I'm like you kind of lost it or you become so into it, you change. And I know my stereotype when I think of someone who's like really into hallucinogenic drugs, I'm like, okay,
Oh,
you're like a weirdo, you're not fully present, you don't function in society. And I think a lot of those things, which probably was something that was like framed to me from like a young age as just like a
mhm.
deterrence for trying new things. But it really wasn't until I started doing the research on people that were using mushrooms, magic mushrooms, for treatments for therapy. So they talk a lot about how people that are going through what do you call that? When you're in hospice. Okay. So like someone that has like a terminal illness, someone that's struggling with like cancer and there's not a curable treatment for them. They started using psilocybin, magic mushrooms as a way for people to, in a controlled environment with a specific dosage, have an experience where they kind of confront these conversations. And the outcome of it was incredibly impressive because many of these patients were obviously like surveyed and polled before and after their experience. And it really got them to a place of acceptance of something that can really kind of be looming over your last precious time in life. And that kind of like blew my brain a little bit. And so I was started to be like super interested in potentially trying. Then life fucking happened.
Mhm.
And I had lost someone close to me who I talked about before. And Kaylee knows like has experienced loss in their life, like throughout life. And when we lose people, I just feel like, dude, I've always been someone that's been like heavily affected by it. Like death, I don't have a calming relationship with the idea of death.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm someone who I grew up in a religious, not like super religious, but somewhat so of a religious environment. And even now, like I do believe that there is an afterlife. I personally don't know if I could say it's as like black and white as a heaven and a hell, but I do
Yeah.
believe that there is something beyond. But I noticed a lot after my friend passed, I would like wake up in the middle of the night, like gasping for breath because I would be fearing, like I'd have fear of death, like
Mhm.
dying. I think the idea of non-existence, it's like a really big trigger for me and never knowing when that will happen, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. So that was when I was talking to a friend and he basically told me like you really should try mushrooms. And I was like, I don't know. I'm also a control freak. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. Well, I went on a vacation to the International Hot Air Balloon Festival with a group of friends and in a very safe environment with no other mixture of concoctions. I tried them for the first time and I tried a very small dosage. And all I'll tell you is that I danced with the moon and I became more of a hippie freak than ever. But nothing like significant happened to me in that experience. It really was more so like fun with friends and kind of loopy and like I don't know if anyone's ever used, if you're listening and you've cannabis before, I would equate it to like your first one of the first times if you had a positive experience, like geeking out. Okay. You're just kind of giddy. Everything is light and magical. And it's like, wow, this is cool. This is pretty cool. So far, does that sound like something that would interest you?
Yeah, so backing up just a little bit, before you agreed to try, you were on the fence or whatever, what did these people or what did your research bring you to one like sway you to do it? And then what was like talk about people in hospice doing it. What are they saying that they are experiencing, or is it just so individualized you can't really pinpoint it?
So, the science behind how psilocybin affects the brain essentially is that it can combat depression in addition to a healthy diet and exercise. I would encourage everyone to go do a Google, go find a science journal because it'll break down like the receptors in the brain and how it impacts it and how it really is like that level of serotonin that your body needs to look at things in a positive light. And that's basically what it is. It's a mindset change from negative to positive. So
Okay.
that's kind of like where I was intrigued of like, okay, this is something that really could help me see things in a really positive light, which is kind of where the joke comes in when you see someone and they're like, yeah, man, everything is great and the sun is fucking awesome. And
Like
it
hippie vibes.
yeah, because it's just this level of acceptance
Peace.
and positivity and
Yeah.
peace and all those things. Um, I think in a controlled environment, like with people that have terminal illness and in hospice and that kind of therapy, what's really powerful about using mushrooms in this way is that you really are supposed to set an intention prior to going on a trip. And that really, what you're focusing on, obviously, before you go into this experience, it's supposed to help guide then your trip. So I know in these like therapy sessions, they ask, a series of questions and they definitely guide you to be in the right intention. So for them, it really is like if you're struggling with accepting your illness or, accepting the longevity of your life or any of those kind of like huge, like incredibly impactful, like weighing on your body, like making you unable to live your last days in a place of peace. Like, imagine being in that position where you feel like your world is fucking over and you can sit for an extended amount of time, a couple hours, under the guidance of a professional who's giving your body, based off your body weight and other factors, the right controlled amount. And you walk out and you feel this lift, like you're positive. You're feeling like, wow, I am so lucky to have lived this life. And I am so fortunate I still even have a day left. And I don't feel like, this sentence is the end. It's that flip. And it is
Yeah.
so powerful, I think, for anyone to be able to change something, chemically in your brain. We've already talked about on this podcast that depression is a real beast. It's a real illness, firsthand.
Hmm.
And so this is just like, to me, when I was trying to understand it, it seemed like it was just going to be like another tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
All right. Here was the other kicker. I then had started hearing about people who were microdosing mushrooms. So taking like super, super small concentrated amounts because they don't want this whole high hallucinogenic effect, but want the boost that it gives of positivity, creativity, and a really open-minded expansion kind of mindset. And these were like super high achievers, like people who were running companies, CEOs, really needing to think out of the box and build, and they were like constantly microdosing. So I met this guy who was working kind of like architect situation. He then started microdosing, and within 6 months he created his own multi-million dollar company with his friend where he was doing commercial flips kind of in a huge metropolitan city here in the US. And he kept telling me, like, hey, I'm telling you, this is your creative unlock. This helps you get over all the bullshit that is blocking you from being your most successful. And I was like,
It
dude,
sounds like, sorry to interrupt.
no,
It
go.
sounds like, in like simpler terms, that this drops your ego and everything, that this world brings you, like, just drops your ego.
I,
That's how it sounds to
I
me,
love
right?
that. And I think I would say it even like it helps you see truth. So
Yeah.
here's your perception. Here's the world's viewpoint or what their society is trying to tell you. Here lies truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's always that like drop your ego, drop your perception, drop expectations, drop what the world's viewpoint is, and live
Yeah.
in the truth.
Drop the expectations of people, the pressure that they are putting on you. It sounds like it really, like you really focus in on your truth
Mm-hmm.
and, with the science backed and the reviews from people who've been doing this, it sounds like it works and it is your actual truth. You're not just like a drunk slob thinking it's a good idea to like do this, that, and the other, and then you wake up wanting to die. Like it sounds like it's a real, genuine truth. So that's super cool. How do you take them? Like, what do they look like? They're just like
So
mushrooms,
yeah, essentially
like you
it's just like
eat.
dehydrated mushrooms. So
Oh,
they're super dry
interesting.
and you can eat them whole. Some people grind them up. It's just like a preference. When I have eaten them before, like just eaten them like kind of chopped up, and then you gotta have some like orange juice or something. They taste fucking nasty and
A
gnarly.
chaser.
You gotta have a chaser. You gotta get your chaser ready for your shrooms. But I think you bring up a really good point about how, you're not waking up. I mean, there is some like what I'll call like a hangover effect to taking mushrooms just because I believe your body is incredibly dehydrated after the fact. And so there's like a fog kind of. So that kind of is a deterrence for someone if you've got an early morning, like don't go do a mushroom trip the night before.
I don't think that's up my alley anytime soon.
But I do think it's interesting and they kind of like go into, mushrooms or magic mushrooms are not legal except for in specific places. So I believe like the list right now, Oregon,
California, right?
I'm not sure about California. I know Oregon passed it's like almost like
Micro.
medical. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's for psilocybin. I believe Denver has too. So
Hmm.
the places I've had mushrooms have only been in,
Legal
legal
places. Totally.
places. Yeah, I would never do that. So yeah. And it is interesting just the back history too that of the legality of mushrooms. There have been a lot of therapists who have wanted to change the laws around mushrooms and how they can prescribe them to patients. So right now, mushrooms are classified as a level one. I'm trying to get the a schedule one substance under the Controlled Substance Act. So they say essentially it's just a high risk of abuse and there's, not supposed to be medical uses of it, of course, in cases where, different laws have been passed. So it just kind of goes down to that whole like it's so interesting our society's relationship with alcohol and
Yeah.
how we're able to freely drink and enjoy and abuse that. But this substance, this natural substance from the ground, you can find magic mushrooms are not chemically altered that therapists want to use. The struggle and fight that it's taken to create spaces where people can use it has been an incredibly long process. I listened to a really interesting doctor speak on this, and it's honestly, if you're at all interested in the backstory of like drugs and medication in general, I found it incredibly helpful and understanding to learn the process that a substance has to go through and the trials and the regulations before that it can go to, market or before when these drugs are classified as like highly abusive or not. But for now, It's not widely accepted, although it is being used and definitely outside of the US. So I thought that was really cool and continued to keep me interested in trying and taking it.
Yeah. So, what are okay, so we talked about the good things. What are some like side effects to maybe be aware of?
Yeah. So I had experienced mushrooms on a separate trip. I was with my partner. And this time, after having like microdosed and then had my first experience where it wasn't truly like impactful, there were very small doses, which I thought was incredibly appropriate for me at the time. I tried a larger dose and I set the intention before I went into this. Like I want to have a conversation with death. I really wanted to overcome that fear that I had and understand myself. Why was this something that I felt was so impactful to me? So said that as my intention. I was really reflecting on that. I started my trip, and you have to be prepared to lose control because it's a psychedelic. And
Mhm.
so you are like mentally present and losing control of everything around you. That's why I think it's incredibly important if you're interested in trying, you need to be with a buddy, a trusted buddy who's like going to help you out, preferably not going through a hallucinogenic experience.
Mhm.
You need to be in a controlled environment. So safe spaces, locked away in your house or on vacation, but you're not out at the beach with a bunch of people, just very relaxed environments that aren't going to like shoot your cortisol through the roof because there's going to be
Mhm.
a lot happening.
Mhm.
So I was in a house in an Airbnb with my partner and I started losing control and I hated that feeling. I really struggle with it. It was super overwhelming. So I'm mixing this experience where like colors are changing around me and like things are moving at a different speed and everything kind of feels loosey goosey and I start freaking out. So, at that point, I'm having a conversation with myself in my head. And like, this is what I told Kaylee. I had this little voice, which essentially I'm going to call it my spirit guide. And it was talking to me and it was telling me to like chill the fuck out and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like what is happening? I hate this. I want this to stop. Like, what am I going to do? And my spirit guide was like, listen, I'm going to take you through this experience, but you have to promise me you're never going to do this again. Like, this is not for you. You're never going to fucking do this again. And I'm like, anything, I'll promise anything at this moment. I'll never do this again. Like, that's totally fine. And it really took me for a ride. So I was laying down in bed, like in a bed, because I really did not feel like my body could move. Everyone's experience is different. This was mine. I was looking up at the ceiling and I was in this like artist's like home. And so they had splatter painted the walls. And so it was just an incredibly like visually stimulating experience. But I imagined myself in I don't know why, it was like a convertible, like a Corvette almost convertible with my spirit guide. And we were rolling through life and we were reflecting on different experiences. And it was wild and crazy. And I did have a conversation with death throughout my experience. And on the other side, I was like, whoa. Like, as I was coming down off the experience, I really felt impacted. I felt like I had learned a lot about myself. I had learned a lot about my fears and what I want. I learned who I fucking loved was in that experience and how I could make their life better and how they've changed my life. So I'm like on this fucking high, right? I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And then all of a sudden, I have to shit myself. I am like thinking the world is light and airy and bubbles. And then this feeling in my stomach is like, you're about to explode. Okay. So meanwhile, like I haven't been able to really like move or be active or physical. And all of a sudden I just like shoot up in bed and I'm like, I've got to go. I've got to go. And so I crawl my way to this fucking bathroom. And in this Airbnb, there's not a goddamn door in the goddamn house. And so I move the curtain to close it. And it was insane. I shit myself. I shit myself. It was so bad. It smelled. I am like trying to apologize from the other side of the room, like screaming at my boyfriend, like, I'm sorry. He was like, "You're
Oh
so
my
kind."
God, I want to die for
I
you.
wanted to die
Die.
too. I really did. I had already had a conversation with death. I'm like, I'm good to go. Let's just go ahead and do that.
So that's a side effect, which I
Yeah,
didn't know until Grace was telling me
there's
after.
also a possibility that you might puke because when you first try and take them
Ugh, that would be me because I just throw up
easily.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, we were
Like
camping one
really,
time.
anytime I'm sick, like everyone else gets like the stomach bug from the other end, and I'm like puking my brains out.
1,000,000%. I think we're similar in that. And I definitely puked before. And it's just not cute. But I was like thankful because I was like, this isn't fun. Like, So after that last experience, I said it and I meant it. I would microdose again, but I will never go through like a trip like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't one and done for me. And
Hmm.
I think that it served its purpose. Like I
Yeah.
was able to get what I needed from that. And yeah, I thought it was fucking great. Other than
Dude.
shitting
It,
myself.
yeah, other than the end.
Yeah.
And then after that, were you like still tripping for a while, or you just like were coming? It was kind of like, okay.
No, I came to and it was like, okay, wow. And then I went on my phone and I took like ton of notes. I wrote down everything I
Mhm.
could remember from that experience. And I really wanted, I went into it with the intention that I really wanted to gain and learn something from it. And so that's exactly what happened for me, you know, and I took this colossal note page of things that I thought and felt, and it's honestly really cool because moments where I experience doubt and negativity, I get to go back and reread that and be like, okay, wow, like no, you're good and you're incredibly
Yeah,
grateful.
I would say definitely take notes because it would have been probably really easy for you to like forget those things.
100%. And I think with anything, right? Like a lot of people's hesitation and nervousness comes from watching people abuse it and not wanting to be a part of that. But like with
Hmm.
anything in this life, there is good, there is bad, there is ugly, there's evil, there's
Yeah.
joy. It is all how you go about it.
And
Um,
also in the, sorry for interrupting,
hmm,
also in the states that it is legal, like there's people to, there's like places you can go, right? Am I right? And they monitor you and they know the steps, like they know how to take care of you. So there is like, it's not like a Saturday night beer pong party kind of
concert.
drug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's where the bad rap comes from. And that's where a lot of the negativity comes from. And people have to learn from their own choices and decisions. But I think that as an adult, I I really would. I would recommend anyone that has expressed interest of it to do their own research and to create a controlled environment
Get
experience
with
for
a
themselves.
qualified fucking guide and
Go find
find
your
one.
fucking shaman,
I'm
okay?
like, please just go find. That's like, yeah, that's everything. Just
Yeah.
finding someone experienced who can walk you through and like knows the probably amounts and dosages that are good for your body, your weight, your height, and all that shit. Like, don't fuck around with like shit you don't know where it comes from. Don't get it off the street. Like, do it smart. Do it smart, people, if you're gonna do it. You know, no fucking pro here. I've never done it. I just eat mushrooms on my meal plans. I don't see myself wanting to do it anytime soon, but never say never.
I agree. I say never say never. You never know. It's going to be Kaylee's 50th birthday and she's going to be like tripping balls on
Oh my
mushrooms.
God. That would be fun.
I think
Like
it's
Mexico
cool,
for 50.
right? And I just think for people that have a hard time like opening up their mind and seeing other people's viewpoints and perspectives, or who are in a really negative space and who are self-aware of it. I think if you're someone that is unhappy with the framework of your mind and you've started exercising, you've started eating right, you're going to therapy, and
You're
you're
kind of on this healing, as Whitney Rose from Salt Lake would say, healing journey.
I would add it to your healing journey. I really would. I would add it as an experience for you to learn from. But exactly to your point, I think you got to take shit seriously. You can't just walk in for
And
a
she
good.
doesn't mean the shit explosion that happened to her.
I don't take that seriously either. I think that was a defining moment in our relationship. And I'm really curious if he would say the same thing.
And they've been together for like a year and a half now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but this was like, was this before a year?
This was yeah, it was no, it was right after a year
Yeah. I've been
or right
married.
before a year. I don't know.
I've been married for, will it be 5 years in June?
Holy fuck.
That's insane. Anyways, so I've been married for a good, a good amount of time, 3 kids. And the only experience I had like that was when I was really sick and I was like having episodes on both ends. And I wanted to fucking shun him out of the house. He like was checking on me. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I
So
think
I
that
can imagine being like in a year relationship, having that happen in a small ass fucking Airbnb. You're a trooper.
there was no choice. It was just like, this is what has to
But
happen.
I would have made him go outside.
Well, he was coming down on a trip. I wasn't like trying to make him move or
Oh,
do anything. Like it
you're
was
so
kind of just like
kind.
what was happening. And he was so sweet. Like after it all happened and I made my way back and he's like, stroking my back and he's like, it's okay. Like
He
it's
really
okay.
is so sweet
I'm like,
because
oh my God, you're gonna break up with me. This is done. This was really fun while it
can I
lasted.
call an Uber home because
Can I call
are you disgusted with do you hate me? No, he's so sweet.
it?
That's hilarious.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So I really just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to hear a perspective. If this is something you're interested in, explore it. In my
Call a
opinion,
fucking professional and we're
do
not the ones.
do it
Sorry.
do it safe and sound. But my personal opinion is I think that it should be decriminalized and used in therapies in specific scenarios and settings that can be incredibly beneficial and positive for people. And like a reminder, this is a natural substance. It comes from Mother Earth. I think that it's beautiful.
I
And
think me and Grace are very fucking hippie vibes. Like
I
just thinking like, yeah,
mean, if
I
you would have
agree.
asked me even like 10 years ago, I don't think I would have said I would have done it
How old were you 10 years ago?
like 19.
19.
Yeah,
That's insane.
I was much more into partying. I was partying at that time of my life.
Alcohol.
I was drinking alcohol. I was, living that lifestyle that I thought was impressive, that I, thought was cool. Like it was cool to keep up with the
It was
guys.
the mainstream partying,
It
right?
was. And it was cool to be out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night and like have to pull yourself together on, Monday for class or work or whatever it was. I was
Ugh.
never into the mindset was never like, let me take care of myself.
I know. I'm so like I love so we're still young. Grace wants to act like we're old as
We
fuck.
are
I'm
old.
20, I'll be 29 in April
Oh
and
my God,
she
fucking
just
ancient.
she just turned 29. And I'm so excited like for our future as besties for the rest days. Because we just keep learning new cool tips and tricks and just things that elevate our minds and elevate our bodies and elevate our life. And it's really cool to learn about mushrooms, one, but it is also really cool to just be on this healing journey with you.
Absolutely. And I think
Like
that
it's cool to get old. It's cool to get older, guys. It's cool
I
to get older.
agree. I agree. And I honestly am, I think it's amazing. I like myself more and more each year. I think I'm more in tune with
Same.
myself. And at this point, I think that there's no purpose of me putting things into my life or into my body if it's not going to be a positive experience for me. So that is why, it's very empowering to be incredibly intentional with something like mushrooms and use it as a tool for some positivity in your life, or
Yeah.
don't. But don't judge people
Yeah.
for doing it either if that's how they want to open their minds and, like, be in tune with learning about themselves. It's just something
Yeah.
to consider.
And we don't want to pass judgment on people who like choose alcohol over mushrooms. That's not what we're here to do. We're
No.
just saying individually, that is what that's kind of more maybe our vibe
Right.
is.
Agreed. And again, like you said, we're not here to pass judgment on how you choose recreational bullshit. Like, that's you in your
Yeah.
life. Live your best. Your girl has a glass of wine and a martini. Like, I'm not anti-alcohol at all, but I know now that when I drink it, I'm not doing anything kind for myself. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm like the devil's child for fucking drinking it, but I think you have to be willing to be honest with yourself. Every
Agreed.
time I have a drink, I have to know, like, this is how this is affecting my body. And this is how I'm going to feel tomorrow. And if I'm
Yeah.
okay with that in that moment, that's a choice I make. There's a lot of
Totally.
moments where I'm not fucking okay with that. And then I make another choice. It's just like, I think the issue that you and I get back to with alcohol, and the more that you've taught me and how you've changed your lifestyle, is like this unwillingness as a society to accept the fact that it's just not fucking good for you.
Yeah.
That's
It's
it.
not good for you at all. It's not good for your brain. It's not good for your body. It's not, it's just, but again, if you fucking love your wine, like I love my wine, but I'm just not there in my life anymore, which is cool. And I fucking love that about myself. Like I'm happy that I don't depend on alcohol because I had such a unhealthy relationship with it, such an unhealthy relationship. Grace and I were driver and passenger into our unhealthy alcohol lifestyle
It was
at fucking 16 years old,
it was like
chasing
self-destructive.
tequila. No, no,
Ew.
no. What did I do? Chased at one time, y'all. I chased milk.
You chase
And then,
tequila with milk.
okay, I couldn't. Okay, yeah. I,
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
I did that one time.
And then she came out
That
and she was like holding her
by
stomach.
myself, mind you, by myself in our friend's kitchen, like by myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And imagine, I
and
just
maybe that's why we have such strong feelings.
yeah,
Sorry,
I
go.
agree. I think that there are people that haven't had such a tumultuous relationship with
Yeah.
alcohol and don't feel as passionately about it as we do
Yeah.
because we've had such a tumultuous relationship with alcohol. And I think that we've talked about it before, we've used it in a way that was not productive to our growth. And I just wish I would have. Actually, I don't. I don't wish anything would have gone differently, but if I would have known then what I know now, I don't think I would have cared enough to implement those things, but I wonder if it would have made me make different choices or think differently.
Well, I'm honestly glad we did that because I'm glad that we've learned. Like, this was like two girls at 16 in Grace's room. Sorry, D, if you're
Sorry,
listening.
D.
We would hide this cheap ass bottle of vodka. We were so tired from the night before because it was like summer and we are partying, and we like set our alarm for the party the next night, made ourselves wake up, took shots of tequila. No, 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 shots of vodka to like get ready when our bodies just wanted to rest. Like it was just, you're just, yeah.
And that was the cool, but that was the cool lifestyle. Like, we
Yeah,
still
it
made
was.
it to, we would wake up the next morning, we would go to the gym, we would eat a Subway sandwich, and we would
Oh,
lay
yeah.
by the
Forgot
pool
about Subway.
until the next day. And this was before we were working. Obviously, when we started working like busing tables, it was like a different ball game. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that was normal in my mind. Like, I thought that I was doing what everyone else was doing, and I was. And maybe that was
Yeah.
part of the problem. Like, it was just like
Totally. Also, it's like I don't know. Like, it's just what everyone goes through at that age in America for some reason.
I don't think
I'm
everyone goes through it though.
what?
I really do think that there like even subsects of people like in our school that we went to that like did
You
not
didn't
have
do that?
they didn't have that life.
What did y'all do?
Like, what did you do for fun? How did you meet people? How
How
did you
did you
kiss
have
boys?
conversations?
How did you introduce yourself?
Yeah.
What did what did that go like?
We gotta at least have 3 shots before we get out of the car and go talk to people.
I can't.
Let this sink in for a second. Okay.
We
Go.
need to get together. Yeah.
Okay, so
Anyway,
almost 30K in Grace.
I
Taking it. Hippie vibes.
I wanted to normalize the idea of trying new things. So
Beautiful.
I hope in any world or realm that this opened your mind in the slightest bit. And if not, I hope you got a good giggle about me shitting my pants. And
God knows I did.
I hope you guys, the action item I have for you this week is to go learn something about mushrooms. Not even magic, just regular mushrooms. They're really cool. Fantastic Fungi is an amazing documentary on Netflix. Go watch it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And Grace, do you have an intention for us?
I do have an intention for you
Oh,
guys.
good. I thought I was going to catch you off guard.
No, you weren't. I literally I practiced. I said it to myself in the mirror before this podcast. Our intention for the next week is going to be simply this. You have to get comfortable with people not knowing your side of the story. The people that know you and your character, they don't give a shit about false narratives. The people who you're really trying to justify your choices to would love to judge you either way. Let that shit go. You have nothing to prove. That is our intention.
That was fucking beautiful. And I needed to hear that. It's
Same.
amazing. You're
Same.
great. Fucking love you.
Let that shit go. If you can't let it go take some mushrooms to let that shit go. Go live a beautiful
Literally.
week. We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye.